"Mom, what's that over there?" When I returned home from my parents' house with my daughter, we were met with piles of trash bags in front of the entrance. As we approached, I realized that these bags contained my daughter's and my belongings, carelessly packed as if they were actual trash. Confused, I exclaimed, "What's this? Why is this happening?" My daughter tearfully pulled out her beloved stuffed animal from one of the bags and hugged it tightly. Frustrated, I marched towards the entrance, only to find that the locks had been changed while we were out. It became apparent that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were behind this. Ringing the doorbell and knocking several times yielded no response. "What is this? Isn't it terrible?" I muttered. Upon closer inspection, one of the trash bags had a note that read, "Parasites, disappear, never come back." A surge of anger welled up within me, and I couldn't help but express my frustration aloud. "The real parasites are you," I muttered. This was the worst treatment I had ever received from my in-laws in 15 years. Not only was it unbearable for me, but making my daughter feel this way too was unacceptable. My patience exhausted and boiling with anger, I loaded our belongings into the car, and we returned to my parents' house. "I will never come back to this house again," I declared. "I'm looking forward to seeing what happens to the parasites when their host is gone." My name is Sarah. I am currently 43 years old. I live with my husband, daughter, and my husband's mother and sister. I can't say we live happily. I work from home, but this house is never peaceful. The issue lies with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, Diane. They have disliked and ignored me for over 10 years. As my daughter, Tracy, grew up, it bothered me less and less. I mainly work as a personal consultant. I started as a fortune teller, but as my blog became popular, I began receiving more consultations on attracting customers, leading to my current job. I met my husband, Kent, through a friend's introduction when I was training to be a fortune teller. I'm working at a pharmaceutical company and also do affiliate marketing as a side job, which is finally starting to take off. Kent gave me enthusiastic advice on attracting customers when I expressed my struggles with fortune telling. Attracted by his kindness, we started dating and got married a year later. At that time, our income wasn't great, but Kent always supported me. I'm so glad I married Kent. I truly felt this way. Living with my in-laws began about a year after I got married. It started when my father-in-law, who had been healthy until then, suddenly passed away. My mother-in-law felt insecure about the future and asked my husband to live with us. We agreed to live together in exchange for her taking care of the household chores. Initially, my mother-in-law welcomed our living together and was happy. I hoped we would get along well, but I was mistaken. 2 months later, she began completely ignoring me, perhaps dissatisfied with me not helping with the housework. Soon my sister-in-law, Diane, also started ignoring me. I didn't mind being ignored, but the challenging aspect with my mother-in-law was her tendency to involve others. Not only did Diane, my sister-in-law, hear about it, but even neighbors and relatives were informed that my daughter-in-law stays at home, but says she's working, leaving all the housework to me. If I stay even a little, she talks back 100-fold, so I just ignore her. To make matters worse, my mother-in-law would suggest to others, "You better not talk to her too. It'll be troublesome." As a result, people around the in-law house began giving me only tepid responses to my greetings. I felt isolated, and it became very difficult, despite my pleas, to stop spreading strange rumors. My words were completely ignored. Although my mother-in-law's attitude softened slightly when my daughter, Tracy, was born 2 years after we started living together, her overall stance towards me hardly changed. However, she was very fond of Tracy, and having her help with household chores and child care was a huge relief. As my work became busier around the same time, my husband Kent's side business started to struggle, and he seemed unable to adapt to changes in the affiliate marketing market. He approached me saying, "Sarah, can you increase your contribution to the monthly expenses a bit?" I agreed, expressing that my consultations were increasing and the new methods I implemented were working well. Despite my willingness to collaborate on ways to boost his sales, Kent insisted on handling it independently, saying, "I think I'll try it on my own." "I'm really sorry." From the beginning of our marriage, we had agreed that Kent would manage the household finances. Initially, my income was low, so he allowed me to contribute more. When my sales increased, I transferred money to Kent based on my monthly earnings, and he provided a fixed amount for living expenses in cash. Initially, I could only contribute $100, but now I could transfer up to $1,000, though not every month. I could contribute more if I dipped into savings. I knew Kent was struggling with his side business, but his pride prevented him from consulting me. He began spending more time at the office after work, returning home later and later. When Tracy was about 5, Diane got married and moved out. Since she lived nearby, she often brought her son, Ricky, to our house during the day. When Ricky turned 1, Diane expressed her intention to start a part-time job. My mother-in-law gladly offered to take care of him until the evening. Diane was appreciative, saying, "Thank you, I'm so happy." However, as my mother-in-law began caring for Ricky at home, she became very fond of her grandson and started being cold towards Tracy. When they fought, my mother-in-law would scold Tracy, comparing her unfavorably to Ricky. Over time, Tracy started playing near me and began to dislike my mother-in-law's behavior. I spoke up, saying, "Talk to your mother. Tracy and Ricky are both her grandchildren. She should treat them the same. Tracy is already a big sister in elementary school." However, my mother-in-law's focus shifted, and she approached me saying, "Things are tough at the company right now. We might not get bonuses, so could you contribute a bit more?" Despite the challenges, my blog's client attraction was successful, and I started receiving more consultations as a consultant, earning far more than I did as a fortune teller. When Kent requested additional financial support, I responded, "I'm already contributing $2,000 a month. Isn't that enough?" Kent said, "I'm embarrassed to say, but my salary has decreased, and the side business isn't going well. Don't be secretive. As a couple, we should support each other in tough times. I'm really ashamed. Thank you." Later, the amount I contributed gradually increased, and eventually, I was transferring $4,000 a month to Kent. Still not wanting to hurt his pride, I let Kent continue to manage the finances. When Tracy was in 6th grade, Diane came back home with Ricky. It seems Diane got divorced due to her infidelity, but I don't know the details. By this time, Tracy could help around the house, so household chores were divided among each family member. Being ignored by my mother-in-law, and Diane continued, but it no longer bothered me. It's unfortunate that I couldn't give Tracy her own room when she started middle school, as Diane's return meant we ran out of rooms. One night, while discussing which tutoring school Tracy should attend for middle school, Diane suddenly said, "Hey, tutoring is expensive. Why doesn't Tracy study by herself?" I replied, "Could you stop making such comments? I'm paying for the tutoring, so it's none of your business." Diane retorted, "What Sarah is paying? Impossible. You don't earn anything. Kent said he's supporting you. You're just a leech, aren't you? Haha, you married him because he has money, right? Exactly. Kent told me not to speak ill of Sarah, which I can't understand. What does this mean? What has Kent been telling his mother and others? Kent is the one supporting this house financially. It's about time we put an end to the parasite's lifestyle. I feel bad for Tracy, but if we pay for her tutoring, we won't be able to cover my compensation." "Are you saying our house is paying for your compensation?" "Kent said he would pay for it. You should spend your money on Ricky." I began to understand the deception and felt my anger rising. My husband had always managed our household finances, and my mother-in-law had taken care of the household chores and childcare until Tracy grew up. I thought they knew I was also contributing to the household expenses, as Kent was bearing all the expenses of the house, including my living expenses and Diane's compensation. "Be quiet," they said. "It's only natural for a family. You're the only outsider here, not related by blood, and yet you act as if living here is your right." It made me furious. I contribute money too, but they dismissed it as barely enough for my own food expenses. My body trembled with anger as I saw Tracy looking like she might cry. I never thought Kent's pride would be this bad. Initially, Kent was paying for everything, but I had started contributing as well, and now we were living on my income. I needed to talk to Kent properly. Around midnight, he came home drunk and cheerful. When I asked him about not receiving money from his mother or Diane, and about covering all the expenses, he brushed it off, saying it was a matter of pride. He light-heartedly mentioned going to Conan for a seminar, but ended up leaving with a large suitcase. While Kent was away, I decided to use the car and take Tracy to my parents' house. When we returned, we found piles of trash bags with our belongings, and the locks had been changed. A note in one of the bags read, "Parasites disappear, never come back." I was furious and loaded the luggage into the car, returning to my parents' house. They were shocked and advised me to claim compensation. My parents cried with anger, and I decided to confront my feelings. I contacted a friend who informed me Kent had quit his job 2 years ago and was managing a business with his wife. I confirmed this with Kent's company. I felt hollow, realizing I had been paying almost all the living expenses. A week later, Kent returned from the US, and I hired a detective. The investigation revealed Kent was gambling and spending evenings with another woman. When Kent called me, he proposed we move to a new home, abandoning his mother and Diane. Disappointed, I told him I was coming back, but only to confront him. When I returned, I brought divorce papers and confronted Kent about quitting his job and the $4,000 monthly transfers. I accused him of deceit and informed him I would be claiming compensation for the affair and Diane's compensation. My mother-in-law and Diane begged me to stay, but I left, taking my belongings. I ignored their pleas and finalized the divorce, demanding compensation through a lawyer. Although there was some inheritance from Kent's father, it wasn't enough to cover the compensation, so they had to sell the house. I don't know what became of Kent's family, but I hope he can manage. I also claimed compensation from Kent's mistress, who broke up with him after learning the truth. Tracy and I moved to a new apartment, where I was able to give her the room she had longed for. I don't think my 15 years were wasted, but sometimes I wonder if I should have made a decision sooner. Now I feel happy that my home is a peaceful place.